Hey Amanda.
Hi.
Nice to have you back.
Yeah.
So last week I got you to go home and assess a couple of pick up to about 5 of the things that cause you anxiety, and I wanted you to rate which one causes you the most anxiety. Did you get a chance to get that done?
Yeah, I got it done, and the one that gave me the most anxiety was currents. Like river currents. Like river currents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. I just want to backtrack for 1 second, touch base, and you remembered the confidentiality and that everything that's said in the room stays in the room unless you're doing it from yourself or another person. Okay. So river currents.
Yeah.
Okay. So has there been an event, a specific event that?
Yeah, actually I was tubing down with my family, and my dad had this idea to like tie our tubes together with a rope down Spokane River. And we got stuck on one of those like posts sticking out, and I got like put underneath the current with like the rope against my neck on the pole, and then our whole family was like scattering down the river into the currents, and then we got onto this beach, and then my dad's like, oh, we can do it, like don't worry, and my mom was freaking out, and so we got back on the tubes, and then we got pushed under the current to like this tree that was hanging over, and that sucked us under, and yeah, it was just, it was a horrible event.
Wow, yeah, it sounds definitely like it could have been scary for the whole family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of traumatizing.
Yeah, for sure, okay. And so that was the occurring event. So now when you go to a river now, that image comes back.
Yeah, the image comes back, and I just get really high anxiety, and like I just get that feeling of like being like losing breath, like being sucked under. And yeah.
And what are some of the thoughts that are happening when
that I'm gonna die?
That you're gonna die.
Yeah.
That's a pretty scary thought, eh?
Yeah, it's pretty scary, and that like no one's gonna be able to help me, and I'm just gonna be like put under and I'm gonna drown. Yeah.
And so when these thoughts are occurring, what kind of things how are they making you feel? What are they making you do? What do you do as a result?
When I'm thinking about it, like I said, I just literally feel like I can't breathe, and like if I'm with people, like I kind of like back away, and I just kind of like start having like a panic attack. And like if I'm invited to go like tubing down the river, or like even like go like for a walk like near Columbia River, like be close to the river, I'll decline.
Okay.
Because I know if I go in that situation, it's just not going to turn out.
So I'm really hearing that there's a lot of anxiety, and at times it can either go for a panic attack, or you will just avoid and withdraw from the fight.
Yeah, I find that, because I know I'm going to get that, so I like just avoid the whole situation. Yeah.
Okay. And so, because your fear is that you will drown and die.
Yeah.
Those are the thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any evidence for this, aside from the one incident with your family, which sounds like a pretty tragic incident? Is there any? Can you want to do a little bit of paperwork?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna write down pro and con.
Okay.
In other words, it's evidence for and evidence against.
Okay.
And I am gonna get you to try to write down all the evidence for you tubing and dying.
Okay. Okay. So, 4 is that I've heard of people drowning. I guess against would be that I've only heard, I've never seen it.
Okay.
Usually people on the river going down Spokane are drinking alcohol.
Okay.
And that's just like, no.
So there's a lack of stability.
Yeah. So like, if they're drunk, like who's gonna save me?
Who's gonna save you? Yeah. So they're not cohesive, so they may not notice.
Yeah.
Is okay.
Yeah. So how should I write? And then a con is that maybe there's people who aren't drinking. Not everyone's drinking. And then that's all I can think of, kind of. I mean, a lot of people do go tubing again, like on it. So like, I mean.
So it is a popular.
It's a very
popular tubing area, right?
Yeah, it's a very popular river in the summer to go tubing down. So
Okay.
that kind of goes against it too. I mean, if it was very dangerous, I don't think people would be going down it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we've got. So when you look at it visually, what does that change your feelings? Does that make you reassess the event in of itself, or what does the visual do for you there?
On the visuals that, like, realistically, I shouldn't be feeling those, but I still just, I don't know.
But the event still triggers that automatic thought for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, you don't hear about it, and like, there's so many people who go down. So, yeah.
Okay. And so, if you were to go to the lake, how, aside from the anxiety attack, how do you think you might cope? So if we were to go and just drive out to the lake, how do you think you would cope with that?
I think I cope with it by doing maybe some like breathing exercises and just like trying not to panic. And being with somebody who I trust. Somebody who I know, like, if something does happen, then they can help me.
Yeah. So I'm really hearing that having a sense of security and having somebody that you really trust and almost having like a caretaker there would be effective for you for your first couple of it.
Yeah, I think it would be.
Okay. Okay. So this week, I would love it if you went home this week and you thought, gosh, I just lost it.
Maybe I could think about, like maybe me and you could go to the river and we could just even maybe like, just drive by like you mentioned. I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, is that something you're willing to do for next week? You're really willing to jump right into that, hey?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
As long as you can swim.
Well, I can swim. I can swim better with a life jacket on, but I can swim. Yeah.
But I think that's something that I'd be okay with. Just maybe even just driving, like maybe not walking by, but driving by it. And
yeah, for sure. And then we can maybe analyze some of the automatic thoughts that are coming up and possibly change them if need be, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I have a great worksheet that I'd love for you to be able to work with this week.
Okay.
And it talks about changing those thought processes. And
stuff. Okay.
I actually have it in this notebook here. So, okay, so here we go. It's this one right here. It's the thought change worksheet.
Okay.
And so, we'll go through this so that you know what you're doing this week here.
Okay.
Okay, and so this would be the stressful situation, so we can write it down in this box. So it would be just the idea of drowning or tubing or going to the lake. And then the thoughts that come up around that.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe this week, what you could do is you could look at a couple of visuals of the lake on the internet for me.
Okay.
And see how the visual trigger of the situation, what kind of thoughts come up for you around there. Maybe do that 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
And then see if you can come up with a realistic or a helpful thought to counteract that negative thought.
Okay.
And then when we come back together next week, before we go out, we can go over the worksheet and see if maybe we can't change a couple of more and see if we can't come up with a few more. That way we can kind of go into it with a few tools in our toolbox rather than going in and trying to spearhead it empty-handed.
That sounds very helpful.
Okay, perfect. I will give that to you. There. Okay, perfect. Okay. And so I just want to lay out a few things before we jump into planning for next week. So what is the absolute worst thing that could happen? Let's lay that on the line right now.
If me and you go?
Yes.
That the brakes are going to give out and we're going to go straight in the river. I'm going to die.
So we changed our fear from river currents and now we're scared of cars. That whole bad juju is gonna.
attack, I guess, that I'm not gonna be able to control it with even with the helpful toolkit, but I do think it would be very, like, I do think it can work.
Okay. Okay, so the problem could then be that you may have a panic attack and we may not be able to successfully go out there, right?
Yeah.
So we've already brainstormed one or two things that you can do about this problem. So for example, the breathing, the changing the positive thoughts.
Yeah.
Do you want to come up with a third option, just so?
Maybe just like breathing exercises.
Breathing exercises. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So
maybe some like statistics, maybe.
Okay, that's what I was actually going to ask this week, was if I could get you to look up some evidence for your fear, right?
Okay.
And then I'll look up the stats about the river and the death rate, and we'll see what was there a time of the year when the current is less strong?
Right.
Right, those kind of things. I'll find out that information about the river.
Okay.
And then I'll be able to present that with you.
Yeah.
And then you can present me the evidence that you have found, and we can compare it, and we can see what that does with the stress.
Yeah, I think that information will be like helpful too.
Okay.
Make me feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So we've gone over what the fear is.
Yeah.
So your fear really is tubing, that you may end up drowning in the current.
Yeah.
Right. Because you've had the experience of that happening previously, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a legitimate fear.
Yeah.
Right. And so then we've brainstormed a couple of ideas that you may be able to counteract that fear with. We've looked at some of the evidence for the fear. You had the fact that the current can be fast, right?
Yeah.
You had the fact that people are drunk out there.
Yeah.
People go, and you're right, they go to the lake to have a good time, to get drunk, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone, which we've touched on as well. We then looked at some of the evidence against it not happening. Right, so the fact that it is a pretty populated area, there tends to be a lot of people there.
Yeah.
People go tubing, so generally you would assume it may not be the most dangerous place because it's populated.
Yeah.
Right. And then we set up a plan for next week that we're going to go there. First, we're going to look at a couple of ideas that if your homework here, a couple of negative thoughts that do come up. So you're going to look at images of the river, and you're going to analyze and put down the thoughts that do come up when you're looking at the river. And then you're going to pick one or two thoughts to counteract that, positive, helpful thoughts. And then when we come back next week, we'll go over the positive and helpful thoughts and compare them with the negative thoughts, and maybe come up with one or two more if needed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you may come up with some absolutely great ones and not feel that those ones are the perfect ones for you, right?
Right.
And then we'll take those in our toolbox and we'll head out to the lake, and we'll just drive up there, and we'll just leave it at driving up there for now.
Okay.
And if you feel like getting out of the car and going and looking, then we'll go that route. If you don't, then we'll turn around and come back and touch base again.
That sounds really good.
Wonderful. All right, Amanda.
Thank you.
Amanda.